Okay, we're live and back from our lunch. Hope everybody offline out there had a good lunch also. We are into the demonstration portion of the afternoon's activities. Beginning with Roger Hammer at Sam First, be going evolveIT, and then followed by A&I Solutions will be going their agentic AI product called Scout. And then we'll have a recap at 3:30. Okay, Roger, you got the floor.
All right, thanks, Mark. All right, so I'm going to take you through just a few slides of history on SIEM evolveIT, and then we're going to talk about the AI functionality that we've built over the last few years, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the future, I'll say the immediate future for SIEM First and AI, and then Kiyoshi will take over and cover some of those kind of future features that are in the works, I'll say, with a little bit more depth and a little bit of show and tell. I'll also show a little bit of the current evolveIT AI features. All right, so a little bit of history. So for those of you that maybe do or do not know much about evolveIT, it started out as a COBOL mainframe analysis tool. It actually started out with a desktop client only. We brought that into the web and created more up-to-date user interface. Basically the ability to analyze, find all the relationships, to drill down deeply throughout data and control flow and all those kinds of information. Of course, as we went into more in the web, we provided more diagramming capabilities and a lot of different capabilities to export information. Then we expanded the platform from mainframe. We added IVMI, COBOL. We have a little bit of RPG. We're going to improve that over the next year or so. Also added CA2E models and CAPlex. Kiyoshi can give you lots of depth there. So CA2E in particular is a really deep analysis model, and that's the basis for a lot of the modernization work that we're doing right now. So the key there is we have a deep parsing capability that creates metadata for all the relationships within all the application programs or functions, depending on the platform, and also does a deep control flow, data flow, particularly in the COBOL side of things, so we have all of the data level information along with cross-reference. We can do a lot of very deep analysis, including tracing data across the application. So kind of jumping into the AI side of things, bringing the metadata, kind of what I call the factual side of life from a code perspective, along with AI, being able to add more descriptive information and explaining, in particular, in many ways, the code that users are analyzing. Along with, when we look at the prompts, we've got prompts in there to convert code. We've got prompts in there to improve or provide ideas for how to refactor code. And then we've even got prompts in there for refactoring, for example, really nasty levels of if statements and converting, database information to SQL and things like that. So more recently, and currently we're using GPT-4.1 and 5 mini. You mentioned mini models, so we do like the mini models. They're a little quicker, and particularly 4.1. 5 is pretty good in some ways, but in some ways it's not produced as good of information as 4.1, particularly when it comes to formatting outputs. But yeah, so, and we'll probably add the full 5 version soon. We've got customers asking for that because of the experience outside. It is an API-based approach, so we can access pretty much any model. Currently, we use the Azure models that are out there. We also have a number of on-premise models that we can use. And we have customers contemplating right now actually moving to an on-premise model for the LLMs. I guess the key point here is over time, we'll be able to better and better understand how each different model works and utilize the best model for different kinds of maybe analysis or different languages in particular. And also some of the work I've done in the recent past, many times, more in-depth analysis requires multiple steps. And so with that, you need the ability to use potentially multiple models. Ideally, if you're doing validations or things like that, using a different model rather than allowing a model to validate itself would be best. So the other thing that's, and this is actually coming soon, so it really should have been a little farther down the line here, and Kiyoshi mentioned RAG already. We're getting fairly close to putting RAG into the system, and I'll show you where that will go eventually here. But obviously being able to build groups of code that you want to analyze, having it indexed, and using, the factual information of the indexing and the ability to mix that potentially with the metadata is a really helpful direction, and also obviously limit the scope of what gets used to actually output results. Yeah, go ahead.
When you say grouping, do you mean like from like a business rules perspective, like this is the accounting section of our application, this is this section, or do you mean grouping in another sense? Like
it could be, it really depends. So I'll show you a little bit. We've got a feature we just call asset grouping in evolveIT, and it basically allows you to select any group of components and push them into this group definition, and that group then can be used to do analysis.
Okay.
And so it's kind of becomes a part of the user interface as a list, and you can also run some of the automation we call EV bots against that those groups. So that becomes an area of expansion where that becomes a RAG-based grouping that's pre-indexed and gives us the ability to run either automation or direct user interaction against it. All right, so yeah, what gets indexed? Also, just the idea of being able to query, retrieving that code, running it into the LLM for getting results, and knowing that we're getting a more precise, limited answer without hallucination. It's a big aspect there for us. So one of the things we've done really recently in the 11.8 version is added the idea of program summaries. John had actually kind of talked about needing this, but also a customer needed it also. So the idea of being able to either individually or batch for the entire database, build these descriptions or summaries of what a particular program is doing. And so we broke it up into two sections. One, just a short description. And you'll see when I go into evolveIT, we have kind of an interactive area there where we have a description. And then the ability to go see a paragraph level definition of what that program does, just to help understand it at, I'll call it a business level, what are the different things functionally that it's doing. And you'll see here, we've built that just recently into a batch process that is, in my mind, is kind of a core functionality right now. Right now, we've got this batch capability to run things across the AI, and it also helps to manage the feeding into the AI so that it doesn't get overloaded. We did find that you can feed it too much and it'll kind of choke on it. And yeah, so this is really what I was just saying. So the idea of being able to run that batch or individually to get those results. So another area we added was custom prompts. So custom prompts was came up because we have built-in prompts and we have these groupings of prompts, which I'll show you. Each group has its own list, or you can just use the entire list. But once you're in the tools, you may have an idea and want to build a new prompt, right? And come up with your own prompts. And with this custom prompting capability, it kind of gives us the ability then to create custom prompts. And we kind of have a built-in user interface in order to do that. But you can also then save them. They get saved as JSON. You can reload them. And then as you refine those and they become valuable across larger teams, we can then bring those into the standardized prompts within the tool, so they're available for everyone. All right, so evolveBot is our key automation area right now in terms of being able to run at scale, I'll call it, other than that batch capability we've just added. So the simple version of an evolveBot that we have today is to run either an individual program or a group of programs to document them. And documentation would include identifying all the relationships. I believe there's like a parameters section. And then for every single paragraph, building a description using the AI. So combining all that relationship information from the metadata with the AI to give you the descriptions of what's happening within that program at every level. So where are we headed? So this memory is a really interesting area. I think that will add a lot of value to our tool. Reasoning will be, it opens up the door to this multi-step analysis. So if we've got the RAG, we've got the ability to capture groupings of code, and we have a number of steps that you may need to go through to analyze to get to a final result. Being able to utilize memory of each step and feeding that memory into the following step gives you a lot of powerful capabilities. The way it's being implemented right now is also very nice because it's basically taking each result and storing that in a database. It gives you, I don't know about unlimited, but it certainly gives you a very scalable approach to managing memory. When we retrieve it, we're looking at doing it kind of contextually, because what you typically do is you actually query that database to find either all the past, or which would be very large potentially and would overwhelm the LLM tokens, but to actually search contextually to bring back only what's needed and use that as the memory. And then, the ability then to turn it on and off, because once certain steps may not need memory, or you may not even want memory running during certain kinds of analysis. And then, if you're running automation, let's say with an evolveBot, you may run a number of steps of it, and then you run maybe a larger cycle across a number of different code sets, and you don't want it to have memory between each code set that you're running. So you need to be able to turn it on and off and clear it.
So Roger, does memory ever correlate with token usage, memory efficiency, or memory management?
Well, the way you reuse it would
Yeah.
affect it. That's what I was saying, because we're looking at using a contextual retrieval of the memory to basically minimize how much we need to use for each step. So you would assess based on the next prompt what context it needs from the memory and utilize that along with the new prompt. Which, if you've got, let's just say you've got 20 different steps out there and you only need the results from one of them, it's a lot less tokens going to be used in the next prompt. So then, again, another layer, right? Adding on agent architecture, Kiyoshi kind of distinguished between the different kinds of agents. And this would really include the idea of, collaboration and process management, with the ability to run a multi-step analysis using agents. Initially, we're going to kind of start simple here and build, simple call tree analysis. So kind of the context is both integration for doing modernization, but also identifying, any particular program that a user may be working on and being able to give them the full call chain from top to bottom where that program fits. So that if, for example, you're rewriting or modernizing it, what else needs to be modernized and needs in order to be execute a top to bottom process with that particular program or what function it may be. And got ahead of myself. So this is kind of what I was talking about there, the idea of multi-step, the idea of getting more into code transformation, being able to add, things like validation, simulation, or as Kiyoshi said, use real tools to do those things rather than relying on LLMs if they're available, and giving, the whole process better control. So once you're involved and you have a tool that using AI, then making it more broadly available has value. So adding an MCP server so that other AI developments can utilize evolveIT to access information and be able to build results, whether it's simple cross-reference or any level of analysis. And so this is something that will get built over time. And again, we'll kind of start with the basics of cross-reference and then build out. And I'm sure, in many ways, this will get built based on specific needs and goals that we have. But providing that discoverable interface will be, I think, a way of expanding the use of evolveIT. So yeah, this is just some of the examples. Obviously, documentation generators, coding assistants, migrating, lots of things we can do once we have, MCP, its ability to integrate with lots of tools and, lots of different LLMs. So this is just an overview of kind of evolveIT, where it came from, 2016, kind of building out the COBOL analysis and web capabilities through, the idea of getting into the multi-platform we talked about, the integration of AI in 24 and 25. Really probably started a little bit earlier than that. We got probably started more like mid 23, late 23. And then as we advance this year and into next year with a more in architecture, with more automation, more of the different elements that give us both control and also automation of those steps and processes. That's it for this part of the presentation. I'll take you into a little bit of evolveIT here, and we won't focus on all the functionality of evolveIT. I think probably all of you have seen it or at least understand what evolveIT is. I'm just going to walk through some of the things that we've discussed. One idea here, concept, is asset groups. So the idea of an asset group, like that one actually wasn't built out. I never put any code in it. Okay. But basically it's basically a named group. So you can, for example, take a group of, to jump down here and grab my program. So we can take, for example, this group of code and assign it to a group. We got to select it here. And I can assign it to the group, and I can just select that test group and assign. Okay. And it really is that simple. So I took the group of code that I had and I assigned it in there. I would probably go ahead and add my initial item also. Turn this piece off. I guess it doesn't have it there. I got to do it over here, don't I? There we go. So I can assign that in. Okay, now we've got the full set. And so I can go back to my asset group and expand it out. And so it's all there. I can decide to run an EV bot automation over it, or I can just interact with them individually and do analysis. Okay, and then the next item would be an EV bot. I ran one, but it was a little late, so I probably don't have a result yet. But it's as simple as, again, selecting either that asset group or an individual program, going in here and just clicking new request, getting a request started. This is also a batch process, so it runs in the background and builds, in this case, currently documents.
Do you have an example of what its output looks like?
I don't in here, unfortunately, because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, just in general.
It's a nicely formatted JS report.
Yeah.
Do you have one? You can show. Did you get the-
Oh, yeah, that's fine. He can show me later.
And then we've got kind of a grouping of menus here for AI analysis. So you can go directly to the AI analysis workbench, which I'll come back to. And then we have this summary functionality, which I ran the summary process on here. And I can open that up. This was for the full batch of programs in this set. And you can see, each of them here that have been built. And I can also go to, and I'll show you when I go to an individual program that we can open that up, when we're in the analysis for that program. There also is some ability here to edit. So if you don't believe the AI kind of came up with the best answer, you can edit it, and then it can go through a review process if you want to run that process. But you can see we have an approval along with the ability to edit.
So is this going to make it easier to understand the business processes that I've got involved in trying to create some of these bots, doing stuff with AI?
This particular functionality is going to give you an understanding of the overall work that program or function does.
Gotcha.
So what you're asking about, I'll show you an example of some of the prompt that we use to get kind of business rules from a particular program. But I think this one's more of a general summary of understanding.
I hear about people trying to create bots or doing chat stuff and they don't always understand what the processes are going on anyway. And if we can facilitate that.
True, right. That's a good
easier,
point.
Yeah, it certainly is.
So what
Help
else?
speed and then also, like you're saying, if they could even get those processes in and don't like the way the processes are and want to tweak it, how do they tweak what they've got in that bot to make it
That's a good
fit
point.
today's world?
And I think it would give you that context to better understand what that program is doing, so you can write a prompt that gets what you want.
Gotcha.
So is one of the idealized end goals being a plain English summary of I give it a function. It tells me in plain English what this does. It looks at this table, which has this name, but it really means this, does this with this, which has this name, but it really means this. Because especially with a lot of the TUI applications, everything from a database perspective and from a modeling perspective, we have the scripted names, but they're user defined and always great. And then everything in the database is cryptic nonsense. So finding, okay, perfect. There we go.
So here's the short description. It's a little generic, but it's process annuity data. That's what this is actually a quarterly run batch program, and it runs annuity data for an insurance loan process, generates extracts, reports, and listings. And then you have the longer description here, full paragraph, describing, more in depth through.
It's getting a more bulleted step by step possible as well.
Bulleted. Yeah, bulleted would be easy to convert the format of that out.
From an engineer point of view, especially.
Yeah, it's kind of easy.
Makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
Tell it to both the list of functions. Currently it's paragraph.
So you just don't play it. Could get a quick summary.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm assuming you have the information. You could probably tell it to format however you want.
There's a detailed view too.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go here. So now I'm back here in just my standard code view for this program. And if I drop into the workbench, you can see here that I've got source code on the left. I've got a choice of what LLM I want to run.
Mhm.
I've got it defaulted to built-in prompts. I can change that to chat mode. We actually have a chat mode, so we've got a chat at the bottom if you want to just chat, or you can go to custom prompts. I'll stay with this at this point. We have a number of groupings. We've got explain, data lineage, refactoring, database, number of areas. I'm just going to leave those so we see the whole list for now. And then, as John said, well, the first one we kind of leave up here is extract business rules. So I'll just run that real quick, and we can see that we have this, what we call condition
Oh,
action.
that's exactly what I was.
So it bullets out the conditions and what are the actions that are taken based on that condition.
And I know this is like out of y'all's control, but what accuracy are y'all typically seeing with like RPG and COBOL and some of the more legacy source code languages?
COBOL is pretty good. I think I would say it's very good from my perspective, the stuff I've looked at.
Mhm.
I haven't looked at RPG a lot myself. So,
I would say it probably isn't, because we don't currently parse RPG.
Yeah.
right.
So, okay, so you're using your, are you using the existing model and then building off of that? Or are you still using existing model, or do y'all have just a full custom model for the COBOL? Like, how are y'all doing that?
We're not building our own LLMs.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
this is all
Just curious. Sorry.
But yeah, it understands COBOL well, because there's so much out there.
Yeah. Yeah, our volume of RPG is a lot lower, yes.
Same, so it's more problematic. So I'd say we're not there for RPG.
So,
So how like,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm derailing the whole thing here. How pie in the sky is it to be able to, in theory, if you trust its output here, to have it go, okay, generate this logic in this language?
that would be something that I would expect an EV bot to do, for example,
Yeah.
with agents, right? That would be a progression from where we are today
And
to,
this kind of fits this idea that we've all kind of found in our mind, like a lot of times big bangs don't work, and this allows for a more like small, nuanced, step-by-step approach where you're taking it one thing at a time.
and I think what you're saying, and this is something I've played around with myself separately because we've had customers wanting to do things like COBOL or to Java, or
Mhm.
even similar to COBOL, for example, which is a little tougher. But to look at, if I can extract a little bit about the design of that.
Oh, that was me and Kiyoshi's dream, was to
And
do
then-
business rules extraction and.
But then also combine it with the source code and just add that value of the functional understanding to some extent. And then ask for that conversion of code,
Mhm.
and then utilize the functional definition a little bit more to make sure the new code contains all functions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think to me, that's a progression.
Yeah.
Toward the agent level.
And you're absolutely right. So we're finding the same thing, right? So it's the idea of microservices or micro agents, to have to do a very small task. Say, here, go write this, million line, code set. It's gonna choke and die,
Well, and even then, just from a pure logistical standpoint, testing that, implementing that, getting it all bug checking, it's just such more. It's easier to do things in smaller chunks, just because that's how humans are kind of made as well. So.
Testing is a good comment. We don't have it built into the prompts right now, but we had some customers we were working with that we actually were able to build some simple test harnesses, generate some
Can you have
test
it,
data.
does it write test scripts for you?
It had it, yeah, it wrote a
Okay, cool.
test script. It's just a simple driver, right?
Yeah.
With inputs and
this is also where, kind of and we'll talk about kind of how we evolve what we're doing, right? And kind of work together on these things. So as we were partnering with Amazon, they also asked us about, this kind of similar solution. And and our view is really kind of, this is where it's more human in the loop, right? If you're on the mainframe and you got dozens of applications out there, right, and you're trying to modernize all of them, right? It's a big portfolio of what you're trying to take care of. And the idea was really kind of having much more human in the loop as we kind of understand that the applications that your team wrote a million years ago, right? How are they doing and how well does it actually go from COBOL and all your functions to the new technology, right? Because even like COBOL to Java, COBOL's not, variables aren't really poorly defined. In Java, it's like integers or floats or small integers, right? And those don't just translate.
And you're not even taking into account like differences in how database access is done between the two.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Up front, you're going to have a whole lot more human verification and check. You can always do,
But yeah, like what Roger's like, what we kind of talked about Roger showing, like if you take one function and then have this transform in Java, obviously somebody's going to review it, but also then you could review it in the places where there's not direct one for one. It should do it like this in this environment, and this like in this environment. You can have a person actually, use their brain and analyze that and put it together in the correct way. But they have 80% or 90% of the code already written for them.
well, then ideally you take that rule and you cascade it forward, all your other,
Yeah.
functions to see if they all of a sudden now you've just made AI a little bit smarter, right? And you've helped your next set of code, code transformation, more so.
The other part of these big projects like modernization is the management of, what's done, what's not done. What I mentioned earlier, I kind of imagine the idea of, the integration with you guys having that idea of, okay, a top to bottom, whole tree definition. This is, okay, this is going to be the first modernization piece of this application set. And now we've got a visual diagram, or at least a list, and then we can define what are the development steps we're going to go through, what steps have been executed for each one, which ones are still remaining, including human review, and then being able to manage that information so that, if you've got 30,000 or 50,000 programs you've got to work through, what's done, what's not done. When it's time to test that full set, that you should have an executable grouping. So again, we've got refactoring, for example. Here's one that people find interesting. Basically goes in and kind of gives you ideas, and many times it'll actually give us some code and suggest, the changes. Yeah, actually, there you go. That one actually was a refactoring. It's not that one actually had these if. It's like a lot of them are going to be if else statements. It's going to convert them to evaluates. Simplified. Anyway, so lots of different things, and this is very expandable. I mean, these are prompts that we've built in. We can easily add to them. And as I mentioned before, the ability to have custom prompts that you can build. And if I open one here, I built one in here real quickly. And it basically just tells it to do a path analysis on each of the input fields. So again, the key value, and you can actually build these at system level, assistant, all the at least 3 levels of prompting information, and can save that into a JSON format and just put it in your store and run it. So it's listing all the data in this case, and then showing, data flow path, and then it'll follow on with decision paths and how it impacts each field. Okay, any questions? A little long there, but good discussion.
You talk about doing a whole call tree as far as analysis. That's kind of our next on our roadmap.
Right, yeah, that would be for agent-based, but yes.
Yeah, agent-based. That's kind of the next thing. So that other people can do this through a single program, but going across the call tree is a lot more harder to do. And so because we have the parse information, we can trace the execution, help the AI get there with this.
If there's not any questions, we'll let Kiyoshi take over with the next step here. Kind of show you some of these things that are coming.
to answer your question. So, okay, so I prepare offline RB this slide. So it's not fancy as his, but it's very human. Anyway, okay, so I just say same thing, but probably more little different way, kind of implementer kind of side. So we have currently offering with AI, evolveIT is AI playground. He showed that's basically we using LLM API from there. That's just flat say, flat way say that we have predefined prompt, but also a custom prompt or your prompt. And then EV bot with AI. So basically that is workflow. So we have predefined workflow. We don't open to you create a workflow. It's a little involved to open that capability, but it's predefined. And occasionally invoke AI LLM to summarize or things like that happening. Okay, and then so just to answer your previous question. So few things. Okay, so as a result of some request, you can download zip which contain the multiple PDF. Okay, so it's different subject matter, but so I have just a so this is like a start from menu or call graph within the menu.
Okay.
And then so just each function appear to do some summary.
So this is just to let me interject. So this is something that Kiyoshi built. And this is from CA2E, right?
Yeah, this is it.
So this CA2E function set. And so for the modernization process that you've built this EV bot that generates all the documentation for a complete call tree, right? From menu all the way down.
Yeah. So this is probably with AI version, but so just a function name, description in the 2E, and then so parameter, well,
Thank you.
yeah, then it's using this DDS and the name and so on, and this accessing this access path. So these are all kind of static information we have as a part of as a result of analysis. And then this has just almost no local action diagram, but you can read action diagram in text at least. So you don't need to go there. Of course, this information all available in 2E.
Yeah.
But it's just handy to come.
Clear form.
And then, so this is, this is a great thing, but it's just to try to explain that the minimum 2 action diagram to say that. So which may be not good enough because we're not trained for the 2 action diagram how to read. But
Do you mean from like the pattern point of view, like the templates? Yeah. So it doesn't have the context for the outside the edit points. Okay, got it.
yes. But anyway, so it has, some complexity calculation idea and a message and so on. So it's repeating the function appear. And then to support that kind of thing, so what we're doing right now is so you define menu. So this is a very small menu. So it has a 3 program call and submenu and then a couple of function call. And then now we have like a forward analysis option. So these are the objects appear within the call graph, not just a program function. So it has menu, submenu, and it has using message and 21 panel here.
Oh, this is the insurance app. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, so this is a database accessing, including table. So that's a whole kind of subset is this menu works, requirement for the menu, this menu works. And then what we do is, so we create this to the asset group, Roger said, but it's automatic, not manual. So we creating, so let's say I want to modernize this entry point. That's the request.
Yeah.
And then you can do this and then create the asset group for that. Here, menu. Okay, and then from here, ironically, I'm writing the new 2E to Java Angular converter now. Then I can produce the project file for this. So project file means, I mean, I can embed everything to here, but it's no work. So I have an engine to do the converting to Spring Boot Java, like repository entity, UI, HTML, etc., business logic, etc. So I just can produce the project file needed to run the other engine. So it's produced the whole Java thing, I mean, Spring Boot project, kind of logically. So it's all kind of not really a lot of AI related, but at the same time, we can generate that summary report same time. So it can be some handy information because, as you said, how much you trust, or maybe even fully static automation. Sometimes you want to do something like filtering by programming to you want to move to the SQL, etc. That kind of thing. But anyway, so that's kind of we doing right now. So, but still all static and then all workflow based, which is good because the information we pre-process without AI, like a parsing or whatever, is maybe I can do similar thing, but it's maybe a little more concrete, trustable, I hope, and also it doesn't need the time to on fly. If you use AI from this or versus you have this and then start from there, it's different. So that's kind of do. Okay. And obviously PDF, but we also produce the source of JSON. So if you want to play with that, that's maybe better. Okay. That's kind of what's going on right now. And so, well, future. So, I mean, it's probably not many choices. It's kind of everyone to the same track or same direction. Once you have something, you start with play LLM or you start from workflow. Well, next is probably the item you use, maybe chat with RAG or chat with short memory. That's kind of natural way to do improving, enhancing things. And also, the evolveIT as AI agent application. So instead of workflow, well, extreme dreamy thing is so you have function, well, you have program that may be access database sometime, not always, right? And then that kind of thing AI can distinguish. And then there's a concept of like a one COBOL become one Java, which is one-to-one mapping. But if you have some nice project manager, you want to do the DB access part as a repository entity, then the logic part, logic service guy. Well, there's of course the multiple program accessing same table, same view, right? So, but there could be refactoring like, to convert, merge everything to one repository source. Well, it's dreamy, but in theory, that's a kind of good direction to take. But CA2E, the information is really clear, so you don't need to rely on the fuzziness of part of that because it's very clear. But the native written, that's something very good help. So that's kind of like a two-side enhancement, and then well, external info interface we could create. So like I said, we have parsed data, so that's some context we have. That's a strong part. So we provide just a AI agent, not the application, but just to contribute to some other project or some other thing like get the source code expanded with copybook. So we can provide that information as a text file instead of someone else working hard to copy, replace, blah blah blah. Because we have already, and then call graph, if you decide entry point, well, it's there. So list of program. So the one we show in the two, it can be API or even extract as agent, then we can provide something like that. Well, MCP server, it's kind of enhancing that feature more generic, so more discoverable. But well, that's maybe list of things naturally come based on what we have. And then, yeah, I think agent application, of course, more involved because you need to do some extra work, but like maybe you guys is that fun. So then, yeah. So that's why we can feed information. Yeah. Okay. So this is just a diagram of how the RAG and the short memory work together. So well, basically, if you ask something, and then so we have RAG. Well, the starting point is RAG has some pre-processed data there, and the short memory is clear first time. But if you ask something, try to retrieve data from RAG and try to get the data from memory, well, then combine that information, then send to LLM, and you get the answer. Well, then based on the answer, you feed it to the memory, and then repeating that cycle. But that's kind of a combination of RAG and short memory. And then how do? Well, that's different topic, but it's conceptually, that's how it's going. And by the way, the memory database is typically used by, I'm using the short-term graph database, and then our evolveIT repository is also graph database. I mean, that's kind of synchronization of the data, I think. So this is like how indexing, so that's more little detail, and how using query, etc. Okay. Okay. So, well, just go a little bit. Well, maybe I talk already, maybe, but so we have some demo environment, which is a little fuzzy, but so we have entry point and asking like, I want to transform this program to Java. Well, I don't go core graph, but I just do the step using agent. So let's first explain. So it is just a sample. So we can improve quite, I think, but this is more prototyping. So the first thing, you receive the user input, and the user input is processed by this guy, the requester. And then it's, well, we already defined two tasks. So one is analyzing and one is transforming. And so this guy decided, okay, so the question is related, I'm asking analyzing program or I'm asking converting program to Java. I mean, you could have more, but then we go to evolveIT agent, which just get the entry point and then do the core graph return, and maybe get the source code for that to be processed. And if that's not question of those two, currently it's stopped, just no answer at the end. And then, well, basically we don't need to ask user to input. We can just have a drop down to do the job, but just for demo portion. Okay. And then we have source code, and we call now LLM API to do some code summary thing. Okay. Well, then do that. And if the request is analysis, we stop there. But if that continue to the Java transformation, we go to the next layer and so on. So basically, it's of course mix of workflow and the agent, but I just try to enforce some agent power, but the agent is only working in the entry point, what the request is. But you could imagine you can put the agent in anywhere to do some other thing. Yeah. So well, why do gamble? I prepare result. So I prepare result, so just in case it doesn't work. So anyway, so
You're saying this is very new.
So I have this.
Like
okay.
last night.
So yeah, kind of. So let's say yeah, okay. So I have this program here, And if I do the call graph here, it's a 62 program up here within the call graph. And of course, this one doesn't go to the loop, but so if I request this guy, please analyze this program, well, or whether, see, it's not.
It's usually fairly quick if it's gonna work.
Well, because you guys watching.
Make a demo.
I'll look.
Make a demo of the sale.
Right.
Right, Roger?
But usually everything works in user screen.
But anyway, so I have here pretty random one. So I have a starting point, and then this return as a node and a list of programs here. So it's all up here in that 62 of table. And then it's after it's in the node section. Okay, now H section start. And then this is a program calls program. So this guy called that guy. So it's this ID is assigned to somewhere here. So with these two combination of information, it's actually you have call graph with a message.
Who calls what? Yeah.
Because graph is minimum is two connected, more or less, right? So this information there, and then also you get the source from evolveIT. So you get source code to do something. Do something, maybe just a document, or maybe just convert to Java, etc. So, well, then some default come out this way, and then, well, I don't know, Java, no Java. So Java is here. Well, this is not a part of quality part, but just a flow. So it's just doing kind of your way. And then also the Java code, the validation report, the other guy is generating. Well, we could do fixing some syntax too, but so that's how. And then
Is the Java doing just like generic naming for the objects, or is it trying to do anything with context?
well, I don't control that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious of what it was trying to do.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if that's a tool, you can feed.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to combine the two.
But the native is native, so probably very minimal. So then here is kind of a process log for that thing. So first, I enter the question. So please analyze this program. Okay. And then it's first guy extracting, okay, entry point name and action is analyzed. So that's kind of the one I showed this morning. So from the question, it's recognizing starting point program, and then action is analyzed. And then the other sample here is I think so another action to convert. So that's when I ask the transform to Java. Well, we only have two options, but you can add more. So based on that, and then after that, this process is kind of workflow, but what we doing the catchball is the manager is central always. So you ask the initial question processor, get this, and then return to the main guy, and the main guy ask fetch metadata guy to invoke that thing. And then this guy return some data. Data means like a source code and the code tree. Well, then asking with that to the next step, etc. So it doesn't necessarily to be agent, but it's just doing agent-wise. So this log showing each time it's back to the manager, and then do some task, and then complete, and then back. And then it's not efficient, but just showing the process. Okay. So yeah, and then this one just to explain what each agent task, and then could add some other thing like we could have transformation orchestration. Of course, we have call graph, so we can do loop each program to repeating same step. we know kind of what source code type. It can be assembly or COBOL or maybe even JCL or whatever. We can have a different agent to do the different conversion and so on. And we can split to the just a source code feeder agent instead of just do everything. So you request, I want to have source code, extended source code with copybook to that kind of thing. So we can create a workflow conjunction with kind of dynamic agent. Then that's kind of fun thing to do. Okay. Lastly, just the MCP. So I'm still new for this, but actually the MCP interface is available. Lots of social network people, like XRs and Slack or anything have that. But so basically, well, this example using Type-C USB. So Type-C has interface protocol, of course. Then the different kind of information comes through and it's converted to one, and then it's automatically do the job. Okay, good. So for the evolveIT point, well, we maybe need to pick up the exposable API or discoverable API, and then we can adjust things based on the request, and we can return the whole graph, forward, backward, or different depths or different things, or we can provide a source code, etc., with one single entry point. So that's probably not crazy difficult, but I just need to organize the things to externally. But yeah. So, well, these data just what we can do for the future. Yeah, agent to do some more complicated things, including conversion or documentation, not just a workflow base, more dynamic, and then create as MCP server and also bot with AI agent. That's very naturally how, because time is going that direction right now. And then again, well, our strong point is we have first to process the data, because content is kind of important what you do provide to some other people. And then, we had a history of lots of hard work, classic parsing, etc. So maybe AI overcome, but we have scale of like 100,000 program process, etc. So that's maybe saving cost of AI, maybe even AI does. So